Well, I want to know where they put Romanov's trampoline after he was done jumping off it like that. Man, did he ever leave his feet?
Yes, I want hitting. I want checking. I want physicality. I want contact. In fact, I want more of it.
It can't change from game to game. It can't change from period to period. It can't change from preseason to regular season to playoffs. It has to be consistent across the board.
I love the game. That's why I care about a state.
You can't have it both ways. We always try and have it both ways.
Stick was on the ice one game, and it was just a train wreck waiting to happen, and boy, did it happen, and I want to see more.
To me, this is one of the super easy ones. Kicking, match penalty, suspension, done. Get it out of the game.
Hello, hockey humans of the world. Welcome to Tough Call Podcast Season 5, Episode 3, covering the week of October 10th to 16th, 2023. Coming up, I'll be looking at the Garnet Hathaway kneeing fine, unsportsmanlike conduct, launching into contact, a favorite one of mine, the Ovechkin hit on Karlson, the Taylor Hall injury, and again, unsportsmanlike conduct. So lots to stick around for. As always, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of any of the incidents I talk about here, or for even more hits and questionable calls, check out Tough Call on YouTube and subscribe right now to that Tough Call channel. And while you're here at the Heavy Hockey Network YouTube channel, you might as well hit the subscribe button as well while you watch here, so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And you can check out the other podcasts we have, like Oilers Live podcast or the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, both of those which are friends of Edmonton Sports Talk. And we have other shows like 99 Forever podcast, Paddle Down podcast, 97 Octane. So lots of content there. And you can go to www.heavyhockey.com for all of our articles. And with that, let's get into our first segment called Weekly Total Fines and Suspensions, or WTFs. Between October 10th and 16th, the NHL's Department of Player Safety issued 2 fines and 1 suspension. Now, over that same weekly time period, Tough Call would have issued 2 fines and 4 suspensions. And here's the ones first that we agree on. Brett Howden was issued a 2-game suspension for an illegal check to the head on Brandon Tanev. And here's the clip right here. You can see there is a ton of head contact, but I do believe he was just trying to position himself in a better position to get the puck. The puck, you could see, is squirting free between them, and he's just trying to get out in front and box Tanev out. Unfortunately, he takes a path of travel that does clearly go straight through the head. It is avoidable, for sure, and the extreme degree of avoidability is why I would suspend here, and I can see why they gave it a match penalty on the ice, but I don't think it was truly malicious in intent. I think he was trying to make a hockey play, which is why I only gave him 2 games as opposed to maybe a 3 to 5 game suspension, somewhere in that range, because I do think he's just trying to position and take away the stick and put himself in line for the puck. So it was puck focused. Unfortunately, he just took a horrible angle of approach and went through the head, which is completely avoidable, hence the 2 games. The league gave him 2 games, and I also would have given him 2 games, so perfectly fine there. The next one, Philip Deneau. This is where I think the NHL could have done better. This is a $5,000 fine for slashing, which is the maximum allowable. I'll give them that, right? But there's just way too much targeting here. Deneau gets pushed off. He's annoyed. So he just turns around and whacks his opponent. And he specifically, this is what gets me, specifically targets the spot between where the shoulder pad comes down the arm, or the elbow pad comes down the arm, and the glove. He's looking for that tender spot that's unprotected, and the wrist is a very, very vulnerable location, and it's very susceptible to extreme injury. And he's intentionally targeting this. You have to do more than a fine here. That's the degree of avoidability here, and then the potential for injury. The risk is it could be catastrophic. It could end a guy's season just doing that. So a fine here isn't enough based on the potential for injury, in my opinion. And this last one. So I would have given Deneau 8 games, by the way, because that to me went up to a situation where it has nothing to do with hockey anymore. You're just looking to injure a guy, or at least make him annoyed, and in a place where it could cause a severe injury. Garnet Hathaway, he was also fined for kneeing, and I would have suspended him 7 games. And you might think that's pretty crazy. I know 7 games sounds like a lot, but when you think about it, the league fined Kaliev just last week in the preseason 2 preseason games and 2 regular season games for kneeing, and this one to me is worse than that one. So if you already have the precedent that you're going to suspend, why just fine for this one, especially when it's so bad? I mean, look how far his leg sticks out. I've never seen anyone reach out so far. Look at the player he's hitting, Werenski. His right leg is going to go back, which is the leg that gets contact. His right leg is going to actually go backwards before contact even happens, and his shoulders leaned out. So you'd think the shoulders would definitely hit first. But Hathaway's leg is so far out that somehow the knees still hit first. There's really not even any shoulder contact at all. Look at how he just drives the leg out. Boom. And the knees impact before anything else. And it's completely created by that huge extension. And if you're going to suspend someone already this year, this is like a gift on a silver platter. Now you can show that you're going to be consistent and that you're going to crack down on kneeing, and you have an opportunity here to follow up on a punishment you already just gave. And then you go ahead and reduce it almost to a fine when you look at it that way. Like, where is the consistency and what are you trying to accomplish with these punishments? You had the chance to double down and really show that you're going to get serious about kneeing, and you backtrack and soften it up. I just don't see how that benefits anyone. So, like I said, I'd have given him 7 games for this, for the amount of extension. And again, the extreme degree of avoidability, real missed opportunity here for the NHL to crack down. Now we'll move on to the ones that we don't necessarily agree on, the ones I think they missed. Another opportunity for the NHL. I'm going to look first at a potential fine for William Nylander, and it would be for unsportsmanlike conduct. Here you see Nylander has a great opportunity to score. It doesn't go his way. Nice chance and close. So he gets upset and bangs the stick right there. He smashes it across the glass. And then he still has time to think about it, go all the way back to the bench, and he continues pounding until his stick breaks. Now, this I can see in the moment. You're a little frustrated. Dang, you slam the glass. I can see that. But to go all the way back to the bench and to have that much time to think about it and then still break your stick in half, like, these are supposed to be the greatest hockey players in the world. They're supposed to be the best athletes in the world, and part of that is mental. So they should be the best at controlling their emotions as well. And I understand, like I said, things get heated, things get emotional. I always hear hockey is such an emotional game. Yeah, every sport is emotional, especially at the highest level. I could probably let that slam against the glass go, but then to continue all the way back to the bench and then keep pounding away until your stick breaks, that's a sign that, okay, something needs to stop happening here. So I would fine him for unsportsmanlike conduct. And I'll talk a little bit more about why I care so much about these things in my final segment called Here's the Thing. But here's another opportunity for unsportsmanlike conduct. Rickard Rakell, he got the Chicago Blackhawks all up in arms because he shot the puck well after the whistle. And not just one whistle, but 2 whistles. So he gets the puck in the neutral zone. Is going to be offside. So the referee blows the whistle twice, actually. There was one whistle right on the offside, and then when he sees he's going to shoot the puck, he tries to give him a warning whistle, blows it again, but he shoots it anyway, and of course he gets sworn by the Chicago Blackhawks. They get all upset about it. And that's what we want to see, right? Hey, you can't do that. It's an unwritten rule. We're going to go after you. And that's what people want to see. They want to see this mayhem, this chaos. But it could all be avoided if you simply don't shoot the puck, right? So why wouldn't we want to prevent that? And I know what you're saying. Well, it's just a little puck shot after the whistle. But this was so after the whistle, and it was after 2 whistles. It's not like he was mid-shot or mid-play. It's not like it wasn't blatantly obvious to everyone around him that it was offside. And if it's such an unwritten rule that it's worth going after a guy and trying to fight him, then it should be worth fining a guy for doing it. Why can't we have one and the other instead of just one or the other? Obviously, the threat of a fight isn't stopping people from doing this stuff. So maybe money out of their pockets would. Again, a missed opportunity by the NHL there. I'm not saying, again, that you have to fine every little bit of unsportsmanlike conduct. But again, William Nylander, he had that initial stick slam. Maybe you give him that. But he went all the way back to the bench and then continued to pound on his stick. Rickard Rakell, okay, it wasn't like he just shot it after the first whistle. Again, he had 2 whistles to go through, and everyone else had stopped. It was blatantly obvious that he had time to think about what he was doing, and he still shot it anyway. So these are the types of ones that you want to punish and get rid of, okay? It's not, you give players the benefit of the doubt all you want, but these go beyond the benefit of the doubt. Another one here that we're going to look at is Elias Pettersson. 4 games, I give him for charging. This is a lot like the Leon Draisaitl suspension that I talked about last week that I would give. Players launching into contact. I mean, let's look at Pettersson take flight here. Look at the amount of strides, and then boom, this is like a football hit. He is launching himself straight through the chest. This is literally a football hit. Look at the flight he takes. Whee! It's like he's on a springboard. You can't do that. That is not proper body checking technique. I don't know why this wasn't called a penalty in game, especially. And it was such a severe case of launching that I would suspend him 4 games. I don't see how you would want people to get away with that. To me, it was just a blatantly obvious one. It's like, again, a freebie for the NHL, and they always ignore these. They have the opportunity to follow up on suspensions or fines that they would have given for something, and then they backtrack the next week when they have an example to double down on it, and they don't do it. And, another missed opportunity here. With that, let's move into our next segment, which will be the incident of the week. All right, this week's incident of the week is the Alexander Ovechkin hit on Erik Karlson. And watch this, baby. I mean, just a full head of steam, and boom, right in the center of the rink, open ice, beautiful contact. You can see he doesn't really do anything other than put himself in a lane. He's in good posture. He does raise his stick up, but that's to get it out of the way and brace for contact. I mean, we have to give these guys some leeway here. And Karlson skates right into him. Ovechkin just puts himself into a lane, doesn't do anything to extend or explode into contact. He just lets Karlson skate into him. Karlson, luckily enough, turns his head to the right at the last second, pulls it back just to get it out of the way, and boom. This is what I want to see, guys. Like, you can still have high impact, high thunder, high octane contact and be safe about it. And here, both players do everything to be safe, and they get away with it. And let's watch it one more time in fast motion because, man, I want to see way more of this. Good God, what a hit. Okay, perfectly clean. And now, again, speaking of another one, clean check of the week is the Dahlin hip check on Chittle. Let's load that up here. Oh, man, this was a good one. This is textbook old school hip check hockey. I mean, watch this. Don't you want to see more of this? Isn't this beautiful? Look at that. Let's watch it again here. Oh, man. That's just so fun to watch. Perfect timing, perfect positioning, no danger whatsoever. That's just great old positional hockey, winning a battle. And look at that. Who wouldn't want to see more of that? That's your clean check of the week right there. Now, let's move on to the next segment, which is by request. And this week's by request is the Brandon Carlo hit on Taylor Hall. Unfortunately, it did create an injury, but as we can see here, there's really nothing wrong with this play. Carlo actually does a great job of making it as safe as possible. So you can see Taylor Hall gets the puck in the neutral zone and skates right into Carlo, but there is absolutely no arm extension. There's no follow through, no arm extension, no explosion, no rising up. Carlo just puts himself into a position where Hall skates right into him. There's absolutely nothing he does to create head contact or add to the intensity of impact of this contact. And in fact, what he does here, you'll see in this angle, you can see the angle of approach. He could easily right now, as most players would, honestly, turn towards Taylor Hall, drive off his left leg back into contact, and actually explode forward into it, making the impact way more significant than it needs to be. And not only does he not do that, but he doesn't even just keep going on his current path of travel. He turns up ice going in the same direction as Taylor Hall. Right there, he shifts his whole body to his left and turns up the ice, which actually softens impact even more. He hits Taylor Hall skating in the same direction as Taylor Hall. He doesn't actually even cut into his path. He cuts along his path and angles it so that it softens the blow completely. See how his feet turn up ice? His right foot actually turns up ice, and he pivots his right shoulder so it's skating side by side with Taylor Hall. And that significantly decreases the danger. He doesn't just do things to not be dangerous. He does things to be exceptionally safe, and he should be praised for that. This is just absolutely what you want to see everywhere. And I know it still caused an injury, but imagine how bad that injury could have been had he taken advantage of Taylor Hall and really driven through that contact. So well done there. And with that, let's move into our final segment called Here's the Thing. All right, I have two topics for you on Here's the Thing. First of all, cross-checking. Will the NHL finally crack down? And I'm going to show you 3 examples from the same game of cross-checking being called in the standard that I'd like to see it called at. And here's the first one. We have cross-checking in front of the net. This is a standard net battle that usually they don't call this. I know maybe this one looks a little more obvious because he's pushed into the goalie and stuff, but really there's not a lot of arm extension there. And how often do you see this get not called? But this player is clearly impeded, clearly knocked down in front of the net, and it's clearly avoidable, and it's clearly a cross-check. So this one was called. How many times do you not see that called? So I'm not super excited about it, as excited as I should be, but I am happy to see that it was called in this particular instance. And again, another one from the same game, another type of cross-check that we don't normally see called is this one coming up by the boards in a board battle. That little shove to the hips that you don't see. An attacking player tries to do a little shake and bake, and this player shoves on his hips. Now, this one is a little higher up the back, so it's a little obvious, but you can see he's just trying to push the hips, knock the player off balance. It's a pretty dangerous thing to do, especially near the boards. But how often does that go uncalled? Partly because there's really, if you take a look at it, there's really not much of an arm extension. Again, it's just a subtle little push. And oftentimes those get passed by. And in this case, again, this official called it. Now, these are all from the same game. Maybe I should just be praising this set of officials instead of hoping that this is a league-wide thing. But there is one more. It's an interference style, which is, again, another type that usually gets let go. We have an attacking player that's driving wide around the defender, and the defender's beat, and he reaches out with a stick and pushes on a guy and knocks him over. Now, maybe if he doesn't fall, this doesn't get called, but look how far the arms reach out. Look at how far that arm extends. And usually they just allow the defender this leeway to reach out, put himself in the lane, and make that attacker go around super wide. But in this case, again, they decided to call it, which is not always the case. You can see that defender's clearly beat, and the hands have to reach out super far. And usually they get away with that. And in this case, they didn't. I really like the way this game was called. And I would love to see that be consistent across the board for cross-checking. And there have been a fair number of cross-checking calls lately. Now, I've seen this happen too many times where they do call it consistently for a week, and then it just goes back to normal and nothing gets called. So I am exceptionally cautiously optimistic that this will continue, but it is nice to see. And I thought I pointed out that they are calling a fair amount of cross-checks these days. And like I said, these 3 were from the same game, so well done there. Now to the main topic of unsportsmanlike conduct. I would have given 2 fines for unsportsmanlike conduct this week. 2 different kinds, one for shooting the puck after the whistle, one for slamming the stick. Why do I care so much? Now, I think I might have alluded to this earlier in the episode while I was talking about these incidents, but why I care is what it could lead to. In this case, Nylander chose to slam his stick against the glass and then slam his stick against the boards at the bench. Now, first of all, we have seen teammates get injured by these types of things on the bench. We've seen innocent bystanders sitting on a bench, and another teammate gets upset and starts firing their stick every which way, and they clip a teammate in the face on the bench. We have seen that recently a couple of times. Now, there's also the example of the Deneau slash. what's to say Nylander doesn't get mad at somebody or somebody gets close to him and he decides to take it out on the closest person available? That's what happened with Leon Draisaitl last week. He didn't like a little hit that he took, so he made a beeline for the very next person he saw on the very next shift and jumped into their back, right? I mean, it happens. Who are we to say that Nylander is now calm enough now that he broke his stick? Maybe he's still upset. Maybe that didn't get it out of his system, and maybe next shift he goes out and takes it out on somebody on the back of their legs. And we could have prevented it by putting him in the box here. Now, I know we can't really predict the future. We can't really say that, but we gave him the slash to the glass, remember. We were going to give him that and say, okay, that was your one whack. Now you have to cool down. But he went all the way back to the bench and repeatedly slammed his stick till it broke. That's when you say, okay, enough is enough. We got to cut this off now because what's going to happen next? You're giving them leeway. You're treating them like adults. But when they start to act like children and keep going with it, then you got to punish them like children. Okay, enough is enough, right? And the same thing with that. Shooting the puck after the whistle. Now, you could say, well, people shoot the puck after the whistle. They were already in a shooting motion. You're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But, I mean, this was after 2 whistles, like I said. You already had the leeway. You already gave them the warning. And like I said, if it's enough that the Chicago Blackhawks players are going to swarm this player and say, hey, you can't do that. That's an unwritten rule. Well, like I said, it is a written rule as well. Unsportsmanlike conduct, let's call it. We gave you the first whistle. We gave you the warning. We gave you the second whistle. Now you shoot the puck anyway. Time to pay the piper. That's why I care, because of what this could lead to. We're trying to keep the game safe, right? That's the point of the Department of Player Safety. It shouldn't be to punish things after the fact. It should be to prevent them before they happen. And these types of fines, these small fines for minor incidents, are a way to prevent the major ones from happening in the future. And with that, I'd say this ends this episode, episode 3. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully you tune in next week as well. Subscribe to Tough Call on YouTube, subscribe to Heavy Hockey Network on YouTube, and go to www.heavyhockey.com for all of our articles and content. We'll see you next week.